So a little change of scenery here. I'm at our church building, and as I'm just felt like I needed to be here or something. No, actually, my son goes to a private school, which is not allowed to be in session. So don't tell the governor he's taking a one-on-one test with his teacher, and it just happens to be around the corner from our church building. So I have like 45 minutes here to put a lesson together. I thought I'd use my time wisely. The preachers being a good steward of their time. So short sleeves today. It's really nice out. And kind of as I was coming up here, I'm like, what am I going to do in the area? Everything's closed. So I just came up here and checked the mail and do things like that. And the thought came to me as I was walking up here is like, won't it be nice when things get back to normal? And probably all of you have thought that too at some point in time. Won't this be great when things get back to normal? And I don't know if you've ever done this, but I still know people in my hometown. Maybe you don't. Maybe you've moved away from your hometown and no one's there anymore. But do you ever go back and visit your old neighborhood? And some things look the same, some things don't look the same. And you just go back and oh man, I remember that place was there, it's closed, and you get this feeling that you can never really go back. It's not always, some things changed instantly and they're gone. I get lost now because they've completely changed some of the traffic patterns and things in there, and so those aren't even the same. But some things in life change dramatically, instantly, overnight. And it can never go back. I remember in 1997 I graduated from college, from a Bible college, and I remember I had a key to the building. I'd go up there and study and things like that, and so I worked third shift, and I remember getting off of work in the morning on Saturday. Our graduation was Friday night, and I got off of work, I think it was a Friday, I can't remember what day it was, that's 25 years ago, sue me, 20 years, whatever, and so I get off, but whatever it was the next day, and I go to the building, and I just unlocked. I still had the key on the keychain, and I walked in, and I sat down in one of the many chairs that I'd sat in, just for 4 years going into this, every day, and so I just sat down and having the realization just kind of fall over me that it was over. 4 years of all these relationships. I still have relationships with those people, most of them, and life goes on and life is different. But I just knowing that things were going to be different from that day forward, and a new chapter was gonna happen and all that. But it was very surreal, much like now, and yet here we are thinking the same thing. If only things could go back to normal. And yet, you think about that statement. If only things could go back to normal. How many of us, especially preachers or religious people, have bemoaned the fact that after 9/11 there was just a short-lived revival? Right? We've all the nation turned back to God for just a short moment, and then they went right back to normal. Oh, wait. And what are we wishing for here as preachers and as Christians? We're wishing for everything to go back to normal. What we're wishing for is the exact thing that happened after 9/11. And we're hoping that the world is unchanged, that all the things really that you complained about 2 months ago are the situation we're in. If things just go back to normal, we can sit and complain about politics, or we can argue about sports, or we can argue about all the stupid things that we argued about 2 months ago. Wouldn't that be great if we could go back to normal? And so just sitting here today, that's really kind of hit home with me. There's a story kind of similar like this in the Gospels. It's a story right at the very end, in John chapter 21. The apostles go back to Galilee, and they're out in a boat fishing. That's what they used to do. That was life as normal. And so they go out on the boat, and they're there, and Jesus appears to them, and there's this. You just get this sense of when you're reading it that they really weren't happy in the boat. Now, when Jesus comes into the picture in this particular scenario, they're awakened. I mean, John gets out of the, or Peter jumps out of the boat, and he's trying to race the boat to shore, and it just all these amazing things. There's like, I've awakened. There's real life here, and now that Jesus is in the picture, they're doing all the things that brought them joy at once, but now that holds no meaning. Life had changed. These moments, these years in their life had changed who and what they were, and they just could never go back. Now I want you to think about this, because we say, well, of course he would. Jesus appearing after he rose, that would change you. But this is the important thing. They already know Jesus is alive. Jesus has already appeared to them in the upper room, and they broke bread together, and they've already accepted that he's alive. That's a past event in this scenario. And yet there was still a part of them, even though they've been spiritually awakened and the resurrection has kind of hit them, they've tried to go back to normal before Jesus. They're trying to go back to life as fishermen. I don't know what they thought. I don't know what their mindsets. And yet here we are, probably very similarly. Here we are, Christians. Here we are having complained about people going back to normal and not being touched by life-changing experiences. And yet here we are, wishing really for the same thing. I think it's kind of a commentary not just on our world, but it's a commentary on us as people. That this is the way we are. We kind of like things. We like the status quo. And here I am. Well, life might get back to normal. Eventually, there will be some normal things. Eventually, I will walk in these doors, and there will be cars in this parking lot, and it won't be quiet, and the only one around is this rabbit over here hopping in. That's there's going to be life that looks like normal, but I pray that you will not let it be life as normal. That I know I personally am thinking about a lot of things that I do. A lot of my schedule has been changed, and I'm actually busier. A lot of preachers that are busier than they've ever been before. And maybe that we shouldn't say that, because you'll be like, well, maybe when life goes back to normal, we'll have to reduce your salary. I don't know. But my challenge is to look at some of the changes that you've made and make them permanent changes. What are the things that have changed for you? I know for me, and I think I've noticed just in among humanity, we talk more at the grocery stores, don't you? And we're sitting in lines for forever, and you talk more, and you joke a little bit more, and you make light of situations or whatever. Maybe conversations are serious a little bit more. I don't know. But that's a change I hope we make. I hope it'll be easy to make that transition. We've often thought, man, it's so hard to talk to people about anything. How do I start the conversation? Well, now you got the conversation started. So now that you've learned to do it, make this a permanent change. Don't go back to normal. Go back to life and being able to be open about your life and your faith. That's one thing that I'm going to change. A lot of us have, now that we've not been able to be at church, we've tried to figure out how we can connect. Now, some of that's been over the, doing services and things like that. I don't, just these videos that I do. I'm going to try to keep them up, not every day. I won't have time to do them every day once I have different responsibilities. But I hope to be able to do these, maybe weekly or something like that. As thoughts come up in my head and various things that go on around me, and I think about something, I might just post a video. I hope to be able to do that. There's been various challenges that we've looked at, how we interact as a church, calling people, visiting people, trying to do that more regularly. I get so caught up in I've got to teach a sermon, I've got to, do a lesson, I've got to do a class, I've got to get this, I've got to organize this, I've got to update the website, and I get so caught up in my work, that interaction with people, um, has lagged. I think often that's something I've noticed, and now that I have to miss it, I miss it, and so now we're trying to come up with other ways. And right now, of course, I have to phone call, and that's the only way to do things. But those are some changes I'm going to make. So I challenge you to make some changes as well, and or maybe just to make some changes permanent if you've already made those changes. All right, we'll see you back tomorrow.